everyone, and welcome to the Burgess podcast, the show where we are opening up conversations about life at sea, discussing hot topics within the industry, as well as offering mental health support and promoting well-being for crew. We also have our very own in-house recruitment team, so if you or anyone you know is currently looking for a new position, please send your updated CV to recruitment@burgessyachts.com or check out our recruitment posts on Instagram @Burgess Yacht Crew. In today's episode, we're casting the spotlight on a topic that resonates deeply with most people: stress. As a former yacht crew member turned effortless meditation teacher, our special guest Zoe Scott shares her journey from the fast-paced world of yachting to the tranquil shores of mindfulness, offering a unique perspective when it comes to tackling stress on board. Together we explore the particular stressors that yacht crew face and uncover some tools and techniques to help navigate the turbulent waters of life at sea. And if you fancy giving effortless meditation a go, make sure you keep listening until the end of the show for a taster session with Zoe. Zoe, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to talk about stress and tools that we can use. But, first of all, can you just give us a little introduction about yourself?
Yeah, certainly. So I worked as crew on yachts for about 7 years within a 15-year period, sort of full-time seasonal temp positions, and then balancing that with some seasons in the mountains and things. And I started when I was 19, which was back in 1999. So it was quite a different landscape then, no SDCW, those sort of kind of like the Wild West. And I had practiced meditation for about 15 years as well, studying personal development, which had always fascinated me. And I started practicing meditation just out of interest, and then was actually technically prescribed it by my doctor for anxiety and stress. But whilst I'd tried several different styles, I could never find one that stuck or one that I managed to keep a regular practice with. And then during lockdown, I was listening to a podcast and I heard about effortless meditation. And so I decided to give it a try and really enjoyed it and subsequently kept doing it, and then decided to train and teach in it. And now I still work in yachting, but not on yachts as such, but more with them in design areas and alongside offering meditation as well.
Fabulous. So you have the perfect combination of knowing and understanding life on board yachts, the stresses that crew face, and the tools that we can all put in place to combat that stress.
Yeah, what I think is really great now is that there's so much information and support out there to deal with the challenges that yacht crew face. In 1999, there was nothing at all. I say we didn't even need SDCW, so
no, it was a very different world, wasn't it?
Very different world, yeah.
And can you tell us just a little bit about the stresses that a crew member might face? What causes stress?
So there are many factors that can cause stress, but one of the key contributors is that working full-time on a yacht isn't just working, it's living on board as well. So the stresses we face can stem from a very wide range of things. These can be cabin fever, or feeling isolated if you're having challenging relationships on board or experiencing bullying. And then there's the workload, so the requirement to perform at a very high level, often in a rather uncontrollable environment. We've all had the 24-hour charter turnarounds or the challenging guests, and so we're experiencing all this, but quite often we're not able to get the mental or physical space that we would normally have if we were land-based in order to wind down and sort of switch off for the day. So that can all add to the stress. And what I find helpful is understanding what's going on inside that can be causing the stress as well. Because I think that when we understand what's going on within us and what's causing those experiences and feelings of being stressed, we get a bit more perspective and we can kind of see the experience of what it is rather than just being completely overwhelmed by it.
And how do you do that?
So I think it's interesting to sort of look into the physiology. So if we imagine that we are a caveman or woman, let's go back in time, and we're sitting in a cave by the fire and it's all very relaxing. And then we hear this rustling outside in the bushes. And we go outside and we see it's a tiger. And when we see that threat, there's a little part of our brain, the amygdala, which is a threat detector. And it's a tiny little almond-shaped part. And it basically presses a panic button that triggers a cascade of reactions all the way through the body, which is known as the fight or flight response, which I'm sure that you've heard of. And so this response happens so we're prepared to act in relation to the threat. And it's an amazing response. It causes our breathing to accelerate so we can get more oxygen into the system. Our muscles contract so we can move faster. We have this dump of stress hormones so we can focus. And all these things happen to help us deal with the threat as best we can. And so in this case, it's either going to be fighting the tiger or running away from it. And alongside these active responses, the systems of the body that aren't required for short-term survival shut down. So digestive system, you don't need to be digesting food when you're faced with a tiger. Immune system, that's long-term health. Reproductive system, elimination system. And then the capacities of the brain that are not needed are also suppressed. So our ability to recall memories. And we kind of go into a sort of tunnel vision thinking, a negative thinking, which is for our survival, because we start thinking about the worst case scenario, i.e. this tiger's going to eat us. And so we do what we need to stay alive. And so we have this experience. And then normally, if we've managed to escape the tiger and haven't been eaten, we go back to our cave, the threat's gone, and we sit down, we relax, and we re-regulate our system, and everything comes back into balance. And so this is a really amazing response that's ensured our survival to today. However, in today's society, the threats are less in the physical form of tigers, but they're more psychological, so threats to our emotional and social survival. So this leads us back into those external factors that we can find, in life, and especially working on boats, the cabin fever, the workload, the isolation. And these threats tend to affect us kind of multiple times each day, each week. They're kind of there in the background. And because our bodies only know how to react to stress in one way, by the fight or flight response, it's triggered many more times than it was designed to, because we evolved to face very short bursts of extreme stress. But nowadays we kind of live in these states of sort of chronic low-grade stress extended over a long period of time. And also we don't get the proper rest. We're unable to give ourselves the opportunity to allow our systems to come back and re-regulate and balance.
Wow, there's a lot to dissect here. It's so interesting, isn't it? So the effects are physical as well as mental, and I think that's one of the key points there, isn't it? And so the possible physical effects are high blood pressure.
I think the symptoms of stress can start with a variety of many things, such as muscle tension, headaches, trouble sleeping, skin problems. And then these can lead on to the longer term effects of stress, being high blood pressure, digestive problems, cardiovascular problems, and burnout, which is when you have essentially exhausted your body's resources and your hormonal system becomes dysregulated.
And the fight or flight, and I think there's freeze as well, isn't there? That to me says that we all react differently to a stressful situation. Is that correct?
I think that comes down to how sensitive we are. The amygdala becomes more sensitive the more it gets activated. So if you've had a lot of stress, then you're more likely to react with that fight or flight response. And also I feel it comes down to our internal resources and perceptions of stress. If we've learned when we're growing up in a safe environment to handle challenges effectively, and we've got the tools, that will obviously lead to a different outcome as how we, respond to these stresses.
So the symptoms of stress, can they grow gradually? Because we were saying earlier how stress can be a build-up of, a culmination of life events or situations or news stories, social media. So do the symptoms gradually build and then you're hit with the physical symptoms, or is it something more sudden than that?
Each time you encounter a perceived threat, that fight or flight mechanism is going to be triggered. But if you imagine yourself as a container, and each time you have a stressful experience, that container becomes a little fuller. And if actions aren't taken to empty the container, it's gradually going to fill up and the stress is going to build up. But also alongside the known stressors, we're faced with so many external stimuli coming in all the time, which also affect our nervous system. So it's really important to engage in activities to let off steam and also take those regular breaks to allow ourselves just to switch off.
Yeah, and you're so right. I mean, the stimuli is there all of the time, everywhere you look, whether it's, the stressful day at work, falling out with somebody that you're working with, bad night's sleep, watching the news, missing someone at home. I mean, it's just relentless, isn't it? So those tools are so important. So what are the symptoms of stress? How can you tell if you or someone close to you is struggling with stress?
Things to look out for could be changes in behaviour. So being more isolated, if someone's spending more time in their cabin, if they start drinking more or their eating habits change. And then also changes in cognitive processes, so memory loss or having trouble making decisions. And then the emotional signs. So if someone's being more irritable or appearing to be anxious or being overly reactive, that could be a sign that they're having trouble coping with things.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, isn't it? Because stress can lead to emotional outbursts, which then add more stress to everyone around you who may already be struggling with stress. So it builds up momentum, doesn't it? So I guess talking to everyone on board, keeping those communications going, encouraging conversations is important in this area.
Yes, good communication plays a really big part. I think if you're going through a stressful, challenging experience, it's really important on board to let your head of department or captain know what's going on so they can support you. And often problems can build up in our heads and sometimes seem or feel bigger than they are. So ensuring that you've got someone to talk to is really important. Or if you don't know who you could speak to about the problem, I find just writing things down can really help. Getting out of your head and onto a piece of paper tends to give some perspective and can bring some clarity on challenges.
I mean, it's quite easy, and we were talking the other week that there are a lot of tools that are being offered to us and that we talk to crew about in either our awareness campaigns or in these podcasts. Different tools, whether it's journaling, breathing exercises, yoga, meditation. How do you find the methods that work for you? Because I kind of add stress to my own life by trying to fit it all in, and then I can't fit it in. I mean, I need to be getting up at 4:00 in the morning to fit in all these different cold showers and 45 minutes of breath work. And how do you find the tools that work for you, like meditation?
Well, I find that it's good to find the thing that really works. As sort of I use meditation as kind of like a foundation. Like I practice every day, and then I know that I've sort of given myself a good start, and I've got a platform to work from. But I think actually beyond all the things that we can do, like the yoga and the breathing, actually just making sure our basic needs are met are really, really important. And obviously when you're on a boat, this can sometimes be quite difficult because maybe, you're not having the amount of sleep you need, or you're not being able to go and, walk in nature. But I think just being able to implement the best you can is really great. So, on a yacht, you're on aircon all day if you work in the interior, just getting outside, getting that, natural light, getting the fresh air. We all have this tendency, I think, of we go to bed and we're looking at our phones and this sort of, we think we're resting, but actually we're not, we're just stimulating ourselves still. So I think just sort of making sure we're eating the right foods, not drinking coffee really late at night, avoiding stimulants, and just making sure those basic needs are as well met as possible. I think that can have a really good effect on overall health.
And I guess just trying things. You could just try 5 minutes of meditation and see how you feel with it, and try 5 minutes of breath work. Start small, I guess.
Yeah, I feel it's about having things that you can implement into your day really easily. When I was on my first boat, when I used to go to the bathroom, I used to put a song on just for 5 minutes of just that kind of like stress relief, just that little break from what was going on in the day. Obviously, that's a bit of a slightly random thing to share with you all, but as I say, like the breathing exercise, they don't have to be this big thing of, right, I'm going to sit down and do the exercise. You can just, once you've learned little techniques and things, even sort of yoga stretches and things, just kind of keeping connected with your body throughout the day, but just in sort of small little snapshots, that's enough. And you sort of it's about sort of keeping opening that tap to let the stress flow out and rebalance.
And finding whatever works for you. I mean, singing, dancing. I will whack the radio on and just go crazy in the kitchen, just for a couple of minutes, just to let it all out. It's finding whatever works for you, isn't it?
Another thing I find quite interesting is how our physical environments affect us. If you're working in a land-based job, at the end of the day, you go home to a space that you've created to be comfortable and relaxing. But obviously, if you're working on a yacht, you don't have that opportunity. So looking at ways that you can make your cabin a more relaxing space by bringing in items that bring a sense of comfort and can signal safety to your nervous system and allow it to regulate without you actually having to do anything. So ideas could be textiles, so maybe having a really soft blanket that you can wrap yourself up in, images. We know that nature has a calming effect on our nervous systems, so especially if you're in the bottom bunk and you don't have a porthole, maybe putting an image of a beautiful natural scene at the end of your bunk. Lighting is another one. Is there any way to bring in some softer lighting in the cabin? So using these sensory gates just to enable your body to automatically relax.
Yeah, no, I love all of those. Very good tips. So a couple of areas I'd like to ask you about is, first of all, is what can we do in the moment of stress? So when you're that feeling of you're being pulled in a million different directions, you feel like your stress levels are increasing, you feel like you're getting agitated, you're worried that you're going to have an emotional outburst. What can you do in that moment to help calm the stress?
Well, something that I used to do when I worked on yachts was, if I could, and I felt everything was getting too much, I would just take myself outside and just remove myself from the situation I was in. Because actually by physically removing, you're changing the scene. And also then if you can be outside and you can be looking at the horizon or the sea, suddenly that tends to put our problems into perspective, because we can see that there's a lot around us which is kind of bigger than us. And that can really, I find that really calming. And then I also think just coming back into contact with our bodies. So connecting to our feet on the floor, maybe taking our hands and sort of softly rubbing our palms together, just coming back into our physical selves than being in our mental selves. This is when actually also you can start implementing the breathing exercises, which is really good. There's a lovely one that I heard about just the other day, actually, coherent breathing. It's an exercise where you breathe in for 5 seconds and then you breathe out for 5 seconds. And you do that for a few minutes and it automatically just sort of really calms you down. But if you're doing that in a stressful situation, no one's going to know you're doing it. Just bring yourself into your body and get yourself out of your head. But also, as I say, if you can, just sort of stepping out of that situation or going and making a cup of tea, just to be able to give yourself a little bit of time to relax and get some perspective.
I think it's important for heads of department to be aware of their team. We were saying earlier about keeping those conversations going. Are they being affected by stress? Are they reacting? Are they showing signs of stress? And if so, making sure that they are given the time that they need to take 5, 10, 20 minutes aside to put these practices into place.
Obviously, when there are guests on board, spare time can be very, very rare. But I think that if you see one of your team struggling and there's a way to carve out 5 or 10 minutes to check in with them, to have a conversation, or to give them some time to just regroup, I feel then that in the long term can be really valuable, not only for the crew member, but actually for the department.
Yeah, I guess it's important for teamwork as well, because having somebody who is not coping, needing some time out, it's just like we said earlier, it's just going to impact the rest of the team. And like you say, ultimately, to have the best team working to their maximum potential, you need them to be well, to be healthy, and giving them that time is actually probably saves more time in the long run, because like we talked earlier, stress has physical implications as well as mental. So Zoe, tell us about New Future Studio. Tell us about the meditation work that you do.
So, as I say, I'd practiced meditation for about 15 years, but I never found one that really stuck and that I was able to practice regularly. And so I discovered effortless meditation. And as I say, I heard about it on a podcast. And when I practiced it, I experienced a really enjoyable experience. And what I understood from it was that it wasn't about trying to achieve anything. And previously, when I'd done meditation practices, it was all about trying to achieve something, either trying to maintain focus or concentration or have a quiet mind. And with effortless meditation, it's actually a practice which requires no effort. So it's sort of, it's in the name. You're not trying to achieve a goal or outcome. You're simply engaging in a mental process in a very gentle way. And in doing so, that facilitates relaxation in the body and relaxation in the mind. And something that I found interesting about it is that there have been up to 3,000 studies, scientific studies on it. And so we know why the effects are happening. We know what's going on in the brain. We know what's going on in the body. And so that was like, okay, there was a tangible aspect to it. This works, and we know why it works. And also it's not affiliated with any spirituality or religion, so it's suitable for everyone, even if they have a faith or they don't. So I started practicing just doing guided meditations and just enjoyed it, so I kept doing it. And then I began to see the results, which have started off, just feeling a little bit calmer and sleeping a bit better and just having sort of more self-awareness. And then on from there, I began to basically have sort of more agency in stressful situations. So if I was having a conversation with someone which was challenging, instead of just reacting to that conversation, I was able to respond to it. It gave me more time and space. And since I've been practicing this particular style of meditation for several years, I feel that I've got this kind of inner rock to lean on, which may sound a bit strange, but I know when the going gets tough, I've got this practice and I know the stillness within me that I can connect with, and that will kind of help keep me steady. And so it's sort of, I say, there's so many different types of practices out there, from yoga to breath work, and there's so many different types of meditation. And it's just all about finding the right one for you if you want to find one.
Oh, it sounds wonderful. I mean, yeah, we all need that inner rock, don't we? And essentially that's what we're looking for. That's good synopsis of this entire conversation, is we need that inner rock that we can lean on in times of stress. And it also sounds wonderful because I've tried meditation and I have never quite clicked with it, because it's always, the focus has always been quietening the mind, slowing the mind, emptying the mind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how anyone empties their mind. I've never been able to do it. So this sounds more effortless. It just sounds easier, more accessible.
Yes, people who have found meditation difficult often find this technique works for them. And once you've learned the effortless technique, you can actually practice anywhere. There's no posture required to practice it, and you don't need to be in a quiet place. And so it can really easily fit into everyday life.
Fabulous. And you do work on yachts already? You work with yachts on this?
I've worked with individual crew members and groups of people. And what's interesting is when people practice regularly together, be it once a week, because they're having a shared experience, it can create a deeper connection, which can lead to more open conversations and greater understanding of where other people are coming from. And I find this can contribute to a sense of belonging and feeling part of a more cohesive team, which I think when you're working on a boat and you're away from home, that can be really important to have that sense of belonging and being valued.
And what was the feedback that you've had from the crew that you've worked with, on how it's impacted them personally?
Generally, the sleep thing is quite a big thing, feeling like they've had more restful sleeps. And then also, as I experienced, just being able to have that distance between myself and a stressful situation or a challenging person, just feeling more confident and having more agency. And I think overall, when you're more connected to yourself and you're more self-aware, you're going to be more aware of what's going on with other people. And I think it just has the capacity to lead to a healthier, happier yacht.
Wow. Well, it sounds fabulous, and effortless meditation is definitely something I'm going to look at. So for anyone who's listening, any yacht crew, either as individual or teams who are interested in speaking to you about effortless meditation, how would they find you?
My website is the best way to check out what I do and the effortless meditation. And so that's www.newfuturestudio.co.uk, even though I'm based in France. And from there, I offer drop-in sessions online, or I offer sessions which are a combination of meditation and then a space to just have open, honest conversations, normally one-to-one with me. And then if yachts are interested as well, I'm available to do packages for whole crew or teach meditation as well.
And that's actually a very good point. You're based in France, so very easily accessible to yacht. Brilliant. Well, I mean, you've sold me. I think it's fabulous. And I do think the more tools that we can offer people to help them through life's day-to-day stresses, the better. And I think just be realistic with your goals. Just try everything once and find what works for you. Thank you so much for joining us, Zoe.
Brilliant. Thank you. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining today's meditation. So just making sure you're in a place where you won't be disturbed by anyone walking in, and turning any devices to silent. And making yourself really comfortable, resting upright with your back supported or lying down, but knowing you can adjust your position at any time. And now there's nothing else for you to do as I guide you through this meditation. And closing your eyes when you feel ready. And with your eyes closed, you might start becoming more aware of thoughts, emotions, physical sensations, or background noises. And there's no need to let these concern you. So just allowing them to be there in the background. And as we move through this meditation, knowing that we're not trying to stop having thoughts or make the mind quiet. We're not trying to achieve any particular outcome or experience. Rather, we're just treating our meditation as a process to go through and accepting all that happens within it. And if you start feeling sleepy in the meditation, not resisting this, and knowing that if you do fall asleep, that's exactly what your body needs right now. So starting by becoming aware of the natural rhythm of your breath. Not trying to change it in any way. And just noticing your breath as it moves in and out of your body. And your body breathing by itself. And now we're going to take control of the breath by breathing down into the diaphragm which is the main breathing muscle located just below the rib cage. And when we breathe in this way, we feel our belly rising whilst our chest remains relatively still. And you might like to place one hand on your belly and the other on your chest for feedback during this exercise. And so in your own time, starting to take slow and easy breaths in, feeling your belly rise as you inhale and fall as you exhale. Breathing in, feeling your belly rise, and breathing out, feeling your belly fall. Just taking slow and steady breaths, and never breathing to a point of discomfort. And so for the next few moments, just continuing with this belly breathing at your own pace, with your chest remaining relatively still as you do so. And as you breathe, just very softly and gently resting your awareness on your breath, which is the anchor point at this moment. And if at any time you happen to notice your awareness has roamed off your breath onto thoughts or feelings or noises, not letting this concern you, knowing that the mind roaming is a natural and important part of effortless meditation. And just whenever you happen to realize your mind has roamed, in your own time, effortlessly and gently, just guiding your awareness back to rest on the feeling of your breath. And now returning your hands to a comfortable position and allowing your breath to return back to its natural rhythm. I invite you to tune into each of your senses as your anchor point and effortlessly resting your awareness on each one. And as you become aware of each sense, not concentrating or focusing on what you are experiencing here, but just having a light awareness of whatever is there. And then whenever you realize your mind has roamed onto thoughts or noises, just acknowledging this has happened without any need for judgment. And gently guiding your awareness back to rest on the sense itself. Starting with your sense of touch and whatever you can feel. This could be the feeling of clothes against your skin, or your feet resting on the ground. And whatever you're noticing, is simply resting your awareness on that feeling as your anchor. Becoming aware of any flavors you can taste or any sensations inside your mouth. And resting your awareness on these now as your anchor. And if you notice you've started thinking about what you can taste, or your mind has roamed onto other things, just acknowledging these as passing thoughts. And then guiding your awareness back to rest on the tastes or sensations in your mouth. Moving to your sense of sight. And whatever you can see behind your closed eyes. There may be patterns, or colours, or simply darkness. Whatever you can see, you're just simply being with whatever is there. And tuning into any sounds that are reaching your ears. And these may be in the distance, they may be nearby. Not concentrating or focusing on the sounds, rather just letting the sound waves reach your ears. And whatever they are, just effortlessly resting your awareness on what you can hear. And becoming aware of any smells that are reaching your nose now. Maybe a smell in your room, maybe flowers, or a candle, or maybe there's nothing at all. And just anchoring your awareness with what you can smell, or simply the feeling of the breath as it flows in and out of your nose. And I invite you now to rest your awareness on a sense of your choosing, to use as your anchor point, that you rest your awareness on and then return your awareness back to when you realize it is no longer there. You might choose a sound you can hear or a taste. Maybe the sensation of touch, the feeling of contact with the floor or your seat, or the sensation of the breath as it moves in and out of your nose. Whatever anchor you choose, you're just following the effortless process of resting, roaming, realizing, and returning. Resting your awareness on an anchor point, and allowing your mind to roam away freely onto other things. And then whenever you happen to realize that your mind has roamed, in your own time, effortlessly and gently, simply returning your awareness back to rest on your anchor. Remembering that having thoughts is a very natural and important part of the process. So you're not trying to stop thoughts from arising, or try and make the mind quiet, or catch thoughts before they arise. You're simply resting on your anchor point. And whenever you happen to realize your mind has roamed off your anchor point, just acknowledging this without any judgment, and then giving preference back to your chosen anchor. Knowing there's no such thing as a good or bad meditation. Whatever happens simply happens. We never judge our meditations by the number of thoughts we have, or by any experience we have in the practice. We only judge our meditations by all the benefits we begin to notice outside of the practice in everyday life. I invite you now to let go of your chosen sense, to release it as your anchor, and simply rest for the last few minutes while you let the effects of the meditation slowly sink in. You may choose to stay in the exact position that you're in, or recline into a more comfortable position. There's nothing for you to do here but rest, and I will tell you when the time is up. And gradually beginning to deepen your breath now. And deepening your breath, keeping your eyes closed, bringing your awareness back to your body. And bringing some gentle movements into your hands and feet. Just waking your body up and expanding this movement, stretching, yawning, whatever feels best. And from this place, checking in, seeing how you feel now. Noticing if you're feeling more calm, more centered, more at ease. And acknowledging yourself for making this time, to give yourself this time to relax. And there's no rush to get up. Just take as long as you need. And whenever you're ready, opening up your eyes and continuing with your day.